Yeah.
I think I remember how to do this.
Don't.
Is video still on? Yeah. There we go. There
It
we go.
might get feedbacky on YouTube. That's the only thing. Not hearing now.
Guess we're good.
We'll call it good.
We'll call it good.
Okay, so this is a meeting of the special committee. What's our, on the future of a consolidated parks and recreation facility. And, oh yeah. Do that. Gotta go do that.
Video still on. Why am I doing that?
Minimize this. So just do like escape or. And close that, and then, not that, no, not that one. Go to the window behind. Right there, click on that. We'll click on the X up on the top right. There we go. Now we're good. Now you can make this full screen again. All right. A little bit of my day job.
Yeah.
So around the table, we have Parks and Rec Director, Tracy Willett. We have committee members, Mike Jondro, Chris Broughton, Mike,
Or Joe.
Joe, I'm gonna get it, John Roman, Nikki Farnham.
Mike Burrow.
I knew there was a Mike, I knew there was another Mike, and Debbie Jondro, yes. And myself, and we're gonna go over the agenda of starting with the review of updated information from Barry Dunn.
Thank you. So let's start with the large sheet that you have in front of you, which should be the updated, yep. And then, share these. So since our last meeting, Barry Dunn has updated to include the fitness component that we talked about. Associated with that, on the smaller sheets, you'll have what they call building programs. The building programs are the square footage of each. I'll draw your attention specifically to reference the fitness piece that has been added. The areas in yellow incorporated the update from the original feasibility study plan. If, as far as concepts, they've kind of adjusted some of the areas, and essentially what has happened is have added, which is 7, 8, and 9.
6 is the fitness.
What's that?
Number 6 will be the fitness.
6 will be the fitness?
Yep.
And then rearrange some of the other areas to incorporate that.
And what is 7, 8, 9 then?
7, 8, 9, if you're looking at the skating center, appears to be administrative suites, activity program spaces.
Oh, I see.
Yep, the key on the right, the key on the right.
The 7, 8, and 9 on the other side is seniors, teens.
Got it, yeah.
And 8 would be the other areas where it would be like aerobic and multi-purpose spaces.
Got it. Yeah.
A playground or indoor playground, the spaces that will fit in that whole area. We just haven't put walls yet.
So we go too much further. If I recall, and Joe and Deb, I mean, it essentially moved the gymnasium spaces parallel to Griffin Road versus aligned the other way. Is that how I remember it? Trying to figure out what's really changed different in the drawing versus the original.
Nothing, they just moved over, just added 8.
Okay, so
over
just
to
moved
the
it over.
west.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and just added 6. Yeah.
Yes, yep.
So there's 2 6s.
Well, 1, 6 is on the gymnasium side,
Yeah.
and there's probably a 6 on Sawyer side.
Right.
And I'm looking for 6 on the Sawyer side, and I.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
right
it
next
is. It's
to
in
7, 8,
between.
9, it's that tiny little thing.
Already named it Sawyer. Oh, yeah, it's like a hallway.
Yeah.
Multi-purpose room.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Right. So again, the concept still addresses what was initially identified in the original study, incorporates the fitness that we agreed to and talked about. looks like rearrange some of the parking still, offers the dedicated pickup drop off for childcare. And then still maintains a separate access and entrance for that. And then the maintenance areas stays the same, the Health Community Services block that we have maintained as a future potential stays there and. Appropriate parking as well.
So any questions on this piece?
I have one question. So the suspended walk jog track is above, how does that run?
That runs along the whole gymnasium.
Okay, around-
all of
okay.
the whole three
Around number
courts.
4, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I think UMaine has that in their rec center.
And
And
then,
it's, if anyone watched the video I sent, told that they have that, it's just a really good way to use that vertical space. Yeah, that would be up there anyway.
Right, yep.
I've seen that in several places. It's a nice use of a large space.
Yeah, like otherwise, what you have with their flags, like you can have people moving,
I
nice.
think it's just more defined.
Yes, the only difference from the one before is, number 8 ended, basically 8 was all the way over and it stopped of where the edge of the gymnasium was.
Yeah.
So now they added 6 and moved 8 all the way
Everything.
to the left where the childcare is. But there's walls in between.
For your benefit, this is the
I got an
updated.
email on my way.
Yeah, no, and I apologize for that.
And I went, oh, okay, cool.
That won't happen again.
I'll bring my assistant with me. You want to settle up or?
Yes.
Yep.
Saddle up. Wow.
Saddle up.
For a while.
So if I read the table correctly, we can have, we're having a catch up. Interestingly enough, Barry Dunn is here in town today for the organizational assessment that we're doing for the department and our operation. So they've been here meeting with staff this morning and we're gonna do a facility tour this afternoon. I mentioned that to you. We have a feasibility study update meeting with them tomorrow morning. So as a result of the discussion you're having here today with respect to the new draft, so they just want to ensure that those of you around the tables in concept, this makes sense based on the discussion we've had thus far. So we can move forward with the more defined, the rendering type documents that you all have asked for, and it would be helpful to see some cost estimate updates, et cetera. But before we get too much further, I want to make sure we're good with this. Is that I captured, and we'll look at Deb and Joe, I captured kind of the synopsis of where we're at with Barry Dunn.
Are they still doing the soil samples and stuff?
So I have heard back from SW Cole. They did the analysis when, and I keep giving them, Station 5 was done. And their overall assessment, the soils were generally favorable over there. But have asked, is there something more definitive that we need? I don't know that we necessarily need, I guess, and I'm gonna look at you directly, John, I don't know that we need anything more definitive for this discussion, but tell us if we do, and we can try to schedule them to do something more definitive, so I can, he asked specifically as an A&E on board, we're not, I don't know that we're that far down the path yet.
Yeah. I mean, frankly, it's pretty cheap to get some preliminary stuff.
Yeah,
done.
no,
So I mean, and if they found that it was a disaster, it would be nice to know. From from the city's perspective, I would assume.
Oh, for sure.
But that being said, not that expensive.
Off memory, I think the site was generally favorable with stiff clay over
Yeah.
glacial till.
I'm sure it is too. I mean, that whole area there, if you look at where the police station is, it's not that far.
Yeah.
And it's pretty level.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it's the same material.
Yeah, no, and I can meet with them, we can meet with them
Yeah.
to kind of give them a general sense of where the building placement will go. And just even overall,
Was
but
There was a backhoe out there the other day that somebody had done a big pit about a month ago. It was a pit,
at Griffin Road,
it looked like it. The back, maybe it was just a,
Yeah.
Authorized?
maybe it was just was there some equipment out there?
not that I'm gonna look at Joe, because he's,
We mow it,
No, this
the
was.
little
no.
running track on the outside, so I did not notice any.
Yeah. Is there a gravel, is there a pile of gravel or something
Yeah.
out there? Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe
That's
what I
to
was
fill in
looking at.
potholes or when
Yeah,
people
okay.
drive
That
around
was
in
it.
the mud.
Yeah.
so to follow up, I can certainly have it with SW calls, I'm sure you can appreciate it. It's a matter of, and what we've been fortunate here. For example, we just did Union Street, same exercise at Union Street Complex for, lighting, new lighting project out there. They're able to squeeze us in
Yeah.
amongst other things, so. We have that initial assessment, I can reach out to them to kind of. Show them where we're thinking, and if we need to do a couple of holes over there, a couple of pits, you're right, it's pretty simple, it's more scheduled, but.
And I was gonna say, and also it's our land anyway, so it's
Yeah.
probably like, if it's not for this, then it's probably good to have that information
Yeah,
for
oh, for
whatever.
sure. Yeah.
So,
So we'll follow up with SW poll as well to,
So at some point down the road, is it gonna be like a 3D rendition of the whole thing where we can, like a virtual tour? Where we can take a look at, because you can conceptualize this a little bit, but the 3D virtual tour where you can kind of look at stuff and go, oh, that makes sense, or yeah, that really doesn't make sense.
we needed this first. So
Yeah.
yeah, they'll
No,
start
no,
the
no, I
renderings
understand that,
and we
right,
can
yeah.
certainly reach out to them, what they can
Yeah.
provide.
Yeah.
We've essentially put them back on the hook. To do some work for us.
I'll be surprised if they do a 3D rendering.
Yeah,
Yeah. The outside pretty
Yeah.
picture.
Yeah,
yeah,
But you know, sometimes you go.
Yeah, no, I know.
I wish we
I know,
could
yeah.
change that, if I could only have seen that, you know, like they do on kitchens and.
But I'm
home
looking at
remodeling.
this level of detail here is pretty,
You know,
is pretty small. I mean, you know, it's just, they're just blocks.
right,
So,
and that's what that is right now, but when hopefully this gets approved,
right,
that's when a real architect comes in, you know, does
Yeah,
the
then we can
full,
see more, right,
Yes.
got it.
this is the concept.
Yep.
if it does end up going to bond or something, it would pictures would definitely help.
Park that thought.
Gretchen, did you ever see
That's coming up.
what they did for our proposed field house?
I don't know that I ever did,
So it was literally like, it was almost like a fly through,
yeah.
but it gave, it gives the average citizen a wonderful perspective because we're
Right.
going through and seeing the majority of the spaces and so at least you get an idea of the flow of the building and even they had TV monitors up and there were athletics, there were people in the building. I mean, it made it look and feel like you're walking into an occupied building and for the average citizen, especially if it's going out to bond it. I don't know what that cost, but it's something to think
The
about.
Y has something similar for their project.
Yeah, so.
yeah,
We can certainly ask what they can produce, what capacity they, again, we have, we're back working with us, obviously, so whatever they can come up with to accomplish what y'all have talked about, see what they can come up with for sure. Who knows? They've been pretty good about, some creativity. Again, to your point, John, this is where we're at right now in the discussion, so. Sounds like we're good with that. The other thing I did want to talk with you about today and a couple of other things. So I'm going to send this around. What I'm sending around are two of the sections of the full study, which we have put on our BangorParksandRec.com website under master plan, the entire 100+ page document.
Can you send the committee a link to that?
Absolutely, absolutely.
I know the website's been redesigned, so.
It's this document here. The two sections I'm sharing with you today was the engagement piece of that. So I think there's been some question about, we've kind of glossed over it. This really describes, the process they used, both social, what's called social pinpoint, survey. We had a couple of public outreach meetings. We talked about the individual stakeholder meetings we had. And again, it's just a review, rehash of how we've arrived here today. It was a pretty thorough engagement process. The first page of 5.0 kind of summarizes that for you. 5.0 just goes through the results of the surveys. And what folks that responded to those surveys indicated they desired in a new community center. 6O goes into more of the facilities desired and based on the engagement they had. And the information essentially really speaks for itself. And Barry Gunn obviously has done this across the country. So again, a pretty thorough process of how we arrived at this table today. And recall, we had started this process, if it wasn't just after, about the same time that the Y had announced their project as well. So certainly that was out there for folks that knew that was happening, and we were doing the same thing parallel. So I wanted to share that with you, and would certainly answer questions. You can see the engagement we did. And we have said we're candidly, and Deb works with the Y specific to aquatics, but other programming as well, and childcare. We're as much community partners together as anything. I will share with you, going through COVID, one of the first groups that we assembled to share ideas, swap ideas, commiserate, was a childcare group. And it was Parks and Rec and Y and Penquist. Parkside was part of that group. And we would get on a phone call and a Zoom call on a regular basis. We share, some folks will come to us from them with childcare, some will come from us to them with childcare. And we're communicating on a consistent basis. So, and as you all know around the table, both agencies have existed in this community for quite a few years together. Our public mission is a bit different than the WISE mission, as much as the Boys and Girls Club mission is different. And certainly all of these resources contribute to what a great community we have here.
Questions?
Yeah, so to that point, and that was kind of when you suggested like looking at the community center in Golden, Colorado. And I was like, geez, you know, that prompted me to then really look at the comprehensive look at the WISE project here in Bangor. Cause I really hadn't gotten to the website and really did the fly through on that project either. And really to realize the scope and yeah. The nearly $60 million aspect of that and all that is gonna come with that. So that was my encouragement to kind of say, geez, we should all really know what's incorporated in that. And was Barry Dunn aware of like the comprehensive, huge nature of that project when
Yes.
this, and I don't know about the people that you asked to do this survey. I mean, I do see that the ice rink was number one. I mean, that seemed to get most of the attention, and then the other importance were a little bit less, you know, in the recreation side, probably knowing that it was gonna be met, the needs were gonna be met otherwise. So anyway, that was kind of my encouraging, like, let's all be aware of what is coming through the Y, and then make sure that this is complementary, doesn't have too much redundancy with it, because you know, both are gonna be asking, and the WISE project also asked for government, you know, had government, financial input as well. So we're asking the taxpayers yet again, which the Y has done on theirs too, whether it was the CDS funding, you know, from the, you know, federal level taxpayers, but now we're going again. And we know most of us have been asked to donate to the WISE project as well, you know, so we're triple now we're gonna get asked again. And so just wanted us all to be aware of that.
Oh, for sure.
Because we're asking yet again our taxpayers to help with this and.
For sure.
And just, so when we get asked the question, well, isn't the Y doing that? I wanted to make sure that I had a good answer there to say, no, yes, and the city's also gonna do this piece and here's why. Or here's a reason that, you know, you can understand it better.
I would say, having been privy to the Y stuff earlier in executive sessions before the public was, and this, and including the childcare facility over on like by
The
Grand.
Penquist one.
All of those things, all of that is First of all, I think that all of these projects are expanding some in each of these programs, but they're not expanding greatly. And so I think that Y has the focus on, I think it's kind of a matter, states of matter. Y has the liquid, we have the solid with ice and water, right? So we have aquatics, we have ice, and then the overlap, I think, comes with the gymnasium, which I think based on rec programming and rec needs, I think that would still get used in book, I don't think there's an overabundance of that. Childcare, I will go to the mat, if the day that we have too much childcare. Like the day that we have too much childcare, I'll have one for Heather.
Yeah.
But childcare is we are in such a, it's a very personal thing to me as a person who has worked, it's cheaper to send your child to the University of Maine right now than it is to send them to the Y for
Yeah,
childcare. Like straight up numbers. And so having affordable childcare, my kids, the minute summer camp opened up, I booked every week, and then later I would plan my vacation and remove some weeks and paid a $15 penalty, and I would bet.
It's $20 now.
That slot that I backed out of was not empty for long.
Right.
There's usually wait
Yeah.
lists. So the childcare piece, even with the Penquist, it's sort of consolidating some of their centers, and they're adding some spots. But that also serves a different community than necessarily the after school care so I'll go to the mat on childcare. But so I think I think what's interesting about this is that it is so complementary that we're not saying, well, how about we have a pool too? And they're not saying, how about we have ice, that we're I think what I see here is the community saying, hey, you want good aquatics, we want hockey, and we want a lot of the general space. And I think that's where it really complements each other.
No, and one other aspect is the winter. I mean, if we have more inside space and
Oh my gosh.
several
yes.
opportunities, because that is one thought. Well, how come you're also building gyms, or how come the city is also? And then you think, if there's any way to get people moving around during the winter when it's cold, I mean.
And even for
that-
just open play or for birthday parties or for just to have open gym to be, we are crammed in our houses, where can we do to be outside? I think, maybe we can make a little cross-country track around where the running track would be, or things like
That's on
that.
there.
It's on there,
It's on
right?
For cross-country skiing,
Oh,
that's what I'm saying, like,
oh, well, we could do it for cross because it's there for running, so we'll just.
yeah.
So the thing we don't want to overlook is the elderly population,
Mhm.
because that is a growing
100%,
population. And,
yes.
and that's the thing, we really need to focus on, especially like you mentioned, in the winter months where it's
Yeah.
cold. It just gives them something to do, gets them out of the house, they can go in and
If
do
you
their
set up a
aerobics.
pickleball group,
Yep, there you go,
and then have
exactly.
city versus Y,
Yep,
you
there you go, yeah.
would have a full house. And
Yep.
I am absolutely, my parents are senior citizens and incredibly active, and I think that because they're incredibly active, they're incredibly active.
There you go.
Because they have social connections, which are huge for the elderly. And the Armory building is so inhospitable
Right.
to,
That's cold, right?
it's an armory, but so when I look at this, I look at those multi-purpose rooms and think, have the knitting club, have cooking club, have a book club, but where you can park and you can walk in or you can roll in.
Right.
And it's fully accessible and that it is a multi-generational
Exactly.
space.
Yep.
I think that's huge. And even, the Y has like their senior fitness things, but even their Second Street building is not wonderful. So I'll shame them too.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why we're here. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, go ahead.
Well, the other piece that, in my world, one of the things that the federal folks are doing is saying that our day programs that our folks have gone to for 300 years need to not happen. Our folks need to be out in the community. They need to be, and so folks are out like at the libraries doing their crafts and doing things and doing space. They don't want to have a center base anymore for their day program stuff. They want people out in the community. And this is where, our folks are looking for, church basements that they're going and hanging out with in open space, wherever they can be to be out in the community. And my folks are, 18 to 80, literally are my clients. And they are all in the community all the time, but most of them are used to going to normal 9 to 3 day programs. And those are going to be gone in years to come.
That's a great point. I mean, we get asked, not all the time, but frequently, that scenario.
Yeah.
I've got an knitting club that we were in whatever building for how long, and so it goes back to the multi-generational spaces that we've referenced, and they have referenced in these concepts from the beginning. Rather than dedicate a space for a function, make it a functional space for a variety of things, so. And again, you mentioned the indoor space, and I think we're in agreement now around the table that indoor space
Yeah.
in general in this city has been a challenge
Yeah.
for years. Were it not for the number of schools we have here,
Mhm.
we all would be in big trouble for indoor space. And I'm gonna look at Deb, she's the one that programs that those spaces in the winter time. We are, as is the one, all over the place
Yeah.
when it comes to using indoor spaces.
And we want that facility that for recreation. So we want the family that the dad goes to work out, the mom's walking up there, the child's playing basketball in the basketball tournament. Or the other one's doing a hockey thing and the mom's walking up there. So everybody can go and just go somewhere. And instead of being, okay, I'm gonna drop you off, now I'm gonna go grocery shopping, or I'm gonna go somewhere else, or go back home and go back. They could stay. And that's
Or
what
even,
we
you know,
want.
I have a friend who's their granddaughter plays softball, and they went to go to a softball game in Camden. And it was a quarter mile and his walker couldn't make it to go watch this. So they got down there and they have this beautiful new facility and they had to turn around and walk back. So even making those spaces accessible for grandparents
Right.
to go
Yeah.
see their kids hockey game,
Yeah.
go see their kids,
And we did
basketball.
that. It's paved in the second phase.
Yeah,
If-
yeah, yeah.
If it's the second phase, if it's the first, that'd be great. But if it's the second phase, it's paved to those
Yeah.
outdoor facilities, and we're putting a few little gazebos, so
Yeah.
those grandparents can be in shade area. So we thought of all
Yeah.
that, so these people can go, yeah.
So we feel like we have a pretty good handle on the parallel nature of go ahead.
Can we flesh out one other thing?
Yeah.
Okay, so how is it, the use different based on, so the why you have to have a membership, let's say. So what is the buy-in to use the city's facilities? Let's say, because we all know you use it more if you have just a little skin in the game. The free swim lessons don't get attended as much as the ones when you pay, even if you pay $10, you tend to show up more. And so can you help us with, so how is that different? Is there a membership? Will people sign up for
We're gonna have
things,
different
or do you sign
options.
in when you go to the gym, or is there? How do you?
It'll be a little bit of
envision that?
everything.
Yes.
It'll be a little bit of everything. So certainly as a public facility, there's gonna be, we do it now. We do it
Right.
now. So it will be somewhat similar to what we do now. In that, for example, preschool playtime, you just show up, go in the gym and leave. There's no.
And this is at the current
This is at the
armory,
current
okay,
facility.
Yes,
I think what we've talked about with the fitness piece, which is different, there would be some sort of membership for that, for revenue generation. So that's the next step for them, is come back with those concepts.
and for liability, I
Yes,
guess,
yes,
if
so-
you're a true fitness center, now
Yes.
you're in the liability land.
Many of our programs you have to
Okay.
register
Okay.
for.
Yeah.
Conversely, if you wanna come down and walk around the gym a few times, you can just show up and do that. So to try and answer your question as best we can today, it's gonna be a little bit of both.
Okay,
Again, it's a community facility. There'll be a place to come in. One, like we do now, one door to come in. But combination of fee-based, membership-based, and just open public events.
and the open public, probably being for residents, would be like for free, and maybe non-residents would be $2. It's stuff that we still have to
well,
work
that's,
out.
we all know
Yes,
Bangor
it's
isn't
still
just
more
Bangor, I mean, Bangor
Yes.
is the whole region, and, you know,
But
the
we
one
gotta-
recognizes that, the Bangor, you know, the region,
Yes.
and so
Which
I
is
was
true.
wondering, how does the
Yes.
city recognize those of us who literally pay taxes in
Right.
Bangor? At
That's-
Bangor's level of
Yeah, they'll just
taxes.
see some things that. No, so that will get them in there, and then, oh my God, you know, maybe I do want that membership, or, you know, I'm gonna bring my kid into this program and see different programs happening there, or
that's
there's
just
that
starting
cooking
now.
club. Yeah, or
Like,
that,
the pool is like $2 for residents and 4 for non,
Yeah.
or even summer camp.
yes.
Residents got like a day early to register or whatever and pay a little less than non-residents, and so I can imagine that would just be.
Yeah.
Because we all know the Bangor taxpayer will shoulder this yet again for the whole region, and, I mean, we're getting asked to do a lot these days.
Yes,
so
we
I
are.
just wanna Make sure
Yes,
that
we
that's
are.
front and center,
Yes.
you know, and it's great for but we should recognize the Bangor taxpayer and the
Yes.
Bangor resident who commits to the city somehow in this effort.
Yeah,
I live 5 miles away in Glenmore. I would fully expect if I'm coming to a Bangor city facility, I don't think it's unrealistic at all to expect to pay $5 or whatever to enjoy something.
You
So
Glenmore.
it makes
people,
perfect sense.
Ask if they can run for, I've had people ask, can I run for city council if I live in not Bangor? And I'm like, no,
No,
a lot of people think Bangor is theirs, even if they are.
Well,
which is great. I mean, that's what we want, but when it comes down to these types. of
Oh,
things-
understood entirely,
Okay.
and Deb alluded to it with some of the fees we charge for a place like, Hanco. Yes, there's a resident, non-resident, many of our programs, resident, non-resident fee. Typically, our programming is about a 90-10 resident, non-resident. Open facilities is different than that.
Mhm.
To your point about the preschool open gym, yeah, they come from everywhere. And they come to us because it's the big room, it's contained, there's no steps, can't get out. I can watch them,
Yeah.
and it's free, so, yeah, for sure.
So we're gonna build this big center, and what you brought up is important, but the rest of the communities too. They should have some skin in the game and they should financially maybe contribute. I don't know how all that would work logistically, but. To get them to participate, because
It does not work.
but they come and they utilize
Oh.
it,
that would be the non-resident fees,
but, yeah.
you know,
After
that's
the
how we
fact.
do that.
So I imagine also be things like ice rental for
Right.
other hockey
For other
teams.
teams that are outside of the Bangor area,
Yeah.
yeah. Unfortunately, we're not gonna get support from the communities,
Yeah.
Just the way it is.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
So
No,
the other piece that we have asked Barry Dunn to start doing is to provide, and we have a few that they shared with us yesterday. Just some potential financing / bonding type discussion, so. That material will be next for you all to kind of hash through. And also in the meantime, based on what we're thumbs up with today. Some of the pro formas about operation and maintenance and revenue. Certainly the fitness piece will generate a fair amount of offsetting revenue for the facility. That was one of the things we asked them to do right out of the gate, was what would it cost the taxpayer to operate on an annual basis?
If we could get that ahead of time before our next meeting,
We can, yeah.
that would be
Yep.
really good, because that's probably the key
Tough
issue.
sell,
Yep,
yeah.
for
I mean, frankly, looking at these pieces is great, but I mean, you guys know this piece in here.
Yep.
But when we get to the financing part of it, where those different bits and pieces come in, that's where
Yep.
the rubber's gonna hit the road.
For sure.
Yeah,
For sure.
And that, we're meeting with them, like Tracy said,
Yeah,
tomorrow morning, so
right.
any questions
Yeah.
right now, let's, we
Yeah.
will throw that on the table for them tomorrow.
And I mean, I think one of my questions would be, honestly, is like the way I've done my house and what are the phases?
Yeah.
What could be, like,
Yeah.
if we built this room for a fitness center, but maybe it wasn't a fitness center right away, but there was room to have a fitness center later, or maybe we built these pieces to be like, it's almost there, but we can fundraise for that later, just to know what a phased approach would look like.
They are going to include some FF&E estimates as well in the pro forma, so we'll have a sense of that as well.
so their pro forma would actually do a projection on how much of this is coming from a bond issue, how much of this is coming from a fundraising part, how much is, will they?
Not
actually be
those
doing-
pieces, no,
Okay.
the pro formas, when we first did them, was operation, expenses, revenues,
Okay.
what we would need to
okay,
staff it,
yeah,
et cetera, et cetera.
And that was in the first document.
That's in the
Yeah,
first
yeah,
document,
yeah.
and that was so that the council could understand if indeed we move forward, this what it would cost an additional park and rec expenditure
Okay.
and
Gotcha.
revenue to
Okay, from a
operate.
park and
Yeah.
rec standpoint.
Yeah,
Got it.
Yeah.
That's the target we gave them to add. So now, based on the conversation we've had here, they're gonna look at some concepts and potential opportunities that they've had success with in other communities across the country of sponsorships,
Okay.
naming,
Yeah, good.
bonding language, that sort of thing. We have some of those examples now.
Yeah.
We want to focus on this today to
Okay.
get some of the renderings you all have asked for. So,
Are there other pieces you have for us today?
question for you all, last thing I would ask, I heard a little bit. we can either do, some of the documents may be large, we can post them to the city's website under a link that we can share with you. We can also include some of the things we've talked about here. Does that work for you all versus emailing documents all the time?
I think having a
that's
link would
fine.
be great.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing too, just if we can, because there was some confusion on this meeting.
Yeah.
I think would people prefer to have a meeting invite for each meeting, or would that be helpful for folks? I think it would be helpful just to get a meeting invite, and if we could have the
Just a
agenda
reminder. Yeah.
available in advance.
Right.
Yeah, just a reminder.
Yep.
Friendly reminder.
So we've been kind of on an every 2-week rotation right now. That seems to work.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
But then I do think it's where it's just I got used to knowing when my meetings were as
I know.
a council person, but as a community member, it snuck up on me because I saw Chris this morning. I was like, oh, do we? I didn't get an invite.
Yeah.
So if we can get an invitation with an agenda and maybe even have, and I don't know if the city wants to do almost like a dedicated site to know that we're discussing this, or to have that information.
So that's kind of goes back to the website. We can easily create that on our Park and Rec website, on our .com where you register programs. This is sitting there now, the full study, but it can be a city website function as well. So, and to your question, I don't see why we couldn't create a special committee page.
Even just to have these documents
Yeah.
available, and I think for the folks that couldn't make it today,
Yep.
that they'd be able to look at it, and just to be able to
Okay.
reference,
Yeah, we
and for the real big ones that you don't want to print and take home, and
Well, yeah, that's kind of what
Yeah.
I was trying to avoid. but-
does that work for folks?
Yeah.
Any other questions from the committee? Nikki?
The end document, I'm still focused on what is,
Yeah.
you know, what's the product from this committee, and is there a template, or who will be writing it? And is it gonna be our responsibility to put the paragraphs in, or how does what we provide the council? How do we get
So-
to that point?
We get to that point, once we'll need to do that here. Next 2 to 3, so this is
Yeah, we're getting
May,
down to it.
we're getting down
Yeah.
to it, so to answer your question, who's actually gonna write it? I would anticipate staff would assist you all in creating a draft that you all were agreeable to. That would then get presented to council, so, what this group really needs, we've kicked this around, I think, enough.
Yep.
The next big piece to figure out is, are you gonna recommend moving forward with this and recommend some sort of vote? Confirming what folks are voting on, if that's the desire of the group.
A vote of the group or a vote of the council?
So what you're gonna your report is gonna say, this committee is reporting back to the council that indeed this is needed.
Mhm.
Indeed, this is what we talked about. We are recommending this. They get to decide.
Okay,
Okay.
They get to decide. So it's not you all deciding that.
Yeah.
The committee is here to provide recommendations and report. Here's what we looked at, here's what we've updated, here's what we recommend.
When's I know you've already talked about this a number of times, but when's our end date?
This report needs to be ready and prepared to go to them by July 10th.
July 10th. Okay.
So, and the timeline backs that from November.
Draft,
Yeah. Got it.
So it needs to be in the council documents the week prior,
Week prior.
so that's the third.
You're doing the math, yeah, yeah.
So June.
Yeah. So that's why we should stick to every 2 weeks.
Yeah, because that's only 3 more.
Start
meetings.
bringing us a draft.
Yeah. Well, we can do that. I mean, if you want us to start picking away the draft, more than happy to do that, so you have it.
Yeah,
even if it's just drafting like what we've already covered, because obviously we haven't drafted the money part, but we can also sort of
Yeah.
scaffold it up and be like, we've agreed on this, and then
we were, yeah,
No, we can
Which-
start to work on that for you. Does
information you're gonna include in that
Yeah,
report,
yeah.
and,
that answer your question?
yes, thank you.
Perfect. All right. Sometimes I ramble on and mumble on and don't get to the point.
No, and
any other questions?
It
from
was the end game
committee or
product.
concerns?
you got it.
Thank you all for coming together today. This is,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thanks, Tracy.
Thank
Good
you.
work.
Thank you, we are adjourned.
We're adjourned.
Good on the, good race.
What's that?
Good race.